Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest in the ValuesJam guest session series. Shailaja, great to have you here. And to start with, please introduce yourself and tell people about the great work that you do.
Thank you, Alan, for giving me this opportunity, and it's really a pleasure to be here. So, I'm a coach, and in fact, two types of coaching is what I do. One is individual, and one is team. So, I'm an executive coach as well as a systemic team coach. I'm based in Dubai, and it's a great feeling to do the work that I do. So, I guess in the end, it all turns out to be good work.
Okay, and let me ask you a question about, you mentioned that you do individual work and also teamwork. What, how do you split your time? Is it 50-50 or is it more to one than the other?
So it's more about the projects that I get. I It depends on the companies that I approach and what the requirements are or their needs are. And we play it by we listen into them, do what needs to be done as far as their uh, coaching needs are concerned, and then we put in a proposal which could be either individual or it could be team. So it's just is as just time is not necessarily equally divided, but how it comes in, how the projects come in is how we decide which one is really great for us to have. And as you know, projects are always take forever to materialize and to finalize.
Yeah.
So, that's how it is.
Okay, and if I was a prospective client and
Mhm.
I was curious about the balance between the value of coaching individuals versus coaching my team. Where would you advise me to invest more time and energy?
Yeah. So individuals are always working with teams, right? There's no way that they are on their own or isolated at the workplace. So to me, as a team coach, I think team coaching it is. When we coach teams, then you know that where the areas of improvement lies is there could be conflict within them, there could be trust issues, there could be it basically starts with trust, and then there's less communication because they don't trust. So you've got to work on those things, and then when you coach the team as a whole group, you understand that their purpose is the same. So they have a common goal.
Yeah.
So there's no real agenda for an individual. It's all working collectively, rowing in one direction. So out of that, if there are some, you know, should I say, the bad apples,
Hmm.
then you would need to coach them individually, say what's going on with them
Okay.
so
Okay.
that they work collaboratively, cohesively with the team.
Yeah. I
So
think
that's the idea.
the most important thing you mentioned is that nobody works individually. Everybody's
Mm,
part of a team, right? So it's such an important
absolutely.
dynamic. So let's choose a values jam card. I'm going to tip
Sure.
out the cards from the deck. How many piles of cards would you like me to make in front of me?
As many as you like, two, three, whatever.
Let's
Doesn't
do
matter.
three then. And then I've got pile one on my left, pile three on my right. So which pile would you like? One, two, or three?
Let's go for one.
One. Okay. And I'm just going to count the cards that we have. So 3, 6, 9, 10, 13, 16, 19 cards. So a number between 1 and 19, please.
Mm. So three.
Number 3. Okay, so what do you think of your choice?
Oh, this is so important to me.
Is it?
Belonging. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, what does belonging mean? And what does it look, feel, and sound like?
Okay. So belonging is something that every individual wants and desires. I mean, deep down. And when they don't fit in or people don't welcome them, that's where they start feeling isolated, disappointed, maybe even frustrated if people don't understand them and they wonder why they are not being accepted for the way they are, or is it that my expectations are too high, or what is it? So this is all what belonging means to me. And I think belonging is a natural part of society
Yeah,
for us as individuals.
it's a great start, and it's interesting, isn't it, that you started to talk immediately about how people felt when they did not have a sense of belonging. You know, you said they're isolated, excluded, frustrated, asking why, asking, is it me?
Mm.
And I had a conversation just yesterday about this actually, where we were talking about how society's ways really encourage us to fit in with what everybody else is doing. And unless you have a very strong sense of who you are, it's kind of easy to just not be you and to
Mm.
be the person you think everybody else wants you to be, which isn't a
Yeah.
particularly healthy situation, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you on that, which is why one needs to know who they are and not necessarily belong for the sake of belonging. Belonging, when you meet people who are similar to you, values are similar, and you're aligned with them. And if then you don't feel that if then you feel you don't belong, then there's something that needs to be communicated and expressed and understood amongst that group of people, because it could be a group of people that is at work, or maybe in a family, which is these are important parts of your life. I mean, it's just general social networks and all. You don't belong, you don't belong, I mean, that's okay. I mean, you can't be part of every community that you desire to be, because you will never find people who will accept you, even though you feel there's nothing wrong with you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah.
And there's something quite natural about that as well, isn't there? About how when you're in a group and you do have a strong sense of belonging, if somebody comes to the group that is different than the rest of the group, at the beginning, there's this kind of tendency to push people away because they're different. You're not like us, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and yet sometimes quicker, sometimes more slowly, you can find out that that person who seemed to be different at the beginning actually is very similar. So
Mm.
I'm not sure what that's about actually. Why we judge people so immediately, and
Mm.
why we resist just inviting people who are different in. What any
Mm.
thoughts about why that is?
Yeah, I think we just want things to be possibly easier for us,
Yeah.
the gelling part. Because when people are different, it's work. Work needs to be done
Hmm.
to get to know them, to understand them. And sometimes it means also managing ourselves
Hmm.
to see that how well we can understand them, and they can feel accepted. So to me, I'm the kind of person who likes to be in a group where we have similar values, but the rest can be all different because all five fingers are not the same. I mean, you can have different interests, different tastes, different views. I think what's wrong with that? I mean, learning to accept different views makes your interactions even more richer.
I totally
So
agree, Shailaja. And for me, it's difference is actually more interesting.
yeah, yeah,
So I remember going to an event, and they, as part of their diversity and inclusion efforts, they had a day when everybody brought in something, cooking or food from their heritage and their background. And then they were
mhm,
all able to taste different things and ask how they made it, and all of this, which is so much more interesting than everybody bringing in the same thing and
yeah.
it not being, it's like, well, yeah, here's another one. So I sometimes I think we miss the opportunity to celebrate those differences.
Mhm,
um, and again, I don't know quite why that is. Maybe there's something about the fear of the unknown, or
mhm.
so it's like, if you're a different color, or if you're a different faith, or if you're a different gender, different sexual orientation, it's like, is there something to be scared of there? Maybe that's something to do with it very deeply. I don't know.
Maybe that, and to a large extent. But I think most importantly, it's about us. I mean, how you sort of, anyone sort of is open in a certain situation and says, okay, here's someone. Let me just see if I feel comfortable with that person. What is my first sense, my gut feeling? So, how do I do this even when I'm in a networking situation? In-person networking situation. I just see who's welcoming, who's smiling. If I smile, they smile. So I make it a point to smile. Say, I'm feeling comfortable with this person. Let's have a chat. So really, I think it starts from there. You get to know that person, not just ask, what do you do?
Yeah,
It's not all about what do you do. It's all who, and not about titles. It's about how are you today? Where bringing up things that are common, like, you know, being curious about the other person, which then incites that other person to ask you questions about yourself. So I think I just start with showing curiosity and wanting to make that walk that extra step to get to know.
yeah.
I
That that
mean,
take that takes some courage, Shalaja, because I'm thinking, when you were talking, I was just thinking another challenge or barrier perhaps is that people don't want to say the wrong thing. So when you
mm,
said about being curious about the other person, uh, sometimes I think there is a feeling, oh, I hope if I ask this question, they won't think I'm being offensive or nosy, or things like that.
mm,
And so then
mm,
through, maybe this is a UK thing, I don't know, but maybe
mm,
because people want to be polite, they
mhm,
choose not to engage, for the
mhm,
risk of offending somebody.
mhm, mm. So culturally, a lot of things play out in these networking and interactive scenarios. So for me, what, as you were speaking, I thought, what do I do? So I don't always ask a question. Just say, hi, I just today, how I'm Shailaja, you are so and so. And then they say, I just love these sort of little events where we get to meet each other. So you can start by sharing your own thoughts. And then the person is quite safe, feeling safe, because they're not answering a question, they're sharing something.
Yeah.
So, I think that works for me also. I said, I really got lost finding this place today. I was late. Did I miss anything? Something like that.
Yeah,
And oh my God, it really sparks off things like, yeah, not much, we didn't miss much. And that becomes a point to take the conversation forward.
yeah.
So I think that works for me.
So there, I think what you're touching on there is how to create a stronger sense of belonging, to show some vulnerability and also create this safe space rather than um, the person who says, I always like to be on time at these things because if you're late, you're going to miss a few things. And of course, the other person is, whoa, do I really want to be speaking to somebody like this? So I think what you've described there in terms of, just getting the other person to relax, feel as though they belong at least to you, if not the whole environment at the beginning is a great
Mhm.
start. And then what about the metaphor part of this question about belonging? And when you think of the word belonging, what images come to mind? What feelings come to mind? And what sounds come to mind?
Images, feelings, sounds, right? Three things that you
Yeah.
mentioned. So, image of, you know, comfort, you know, a bit of, you know, relaxation, and, you know, just an easygoing conversation.
Yeah, mine is family. I think
Okay.
of seeing, and I was starting to think, oh, should I say mother and child? But then I thought, no, it could be parents and children, or it could be brothers and sisters, just
Mhm.
family members together. Give
Mhm.
that's the image I have when I think of belonging. What about for you, the feelings that you associate with that word and also the sounds?
Mm. So before I go to the feeling part, I'm going to add to what you said about the family. So what I expressed was a common thing for whether it be family or at work.
Yeah.
Because when you are in this sense of comfort and relaxation, you are good to go even at work, with family. Because why are families dysfunctional? Because then when you have a conversation, people are not listening. There's always arguments. So then you start saying or thinking, is this the kind of family I have? So, or is this the kind of workplace I'm in where there's no respect for each other, there's no listening, there's no understanding? So, what I think, Alan, is that the essence of any interaction, whether it be at family or
Oh,
anywhere else,
for sure.
is just this, because that openness and flexibility, and at the same time curiosity to know about the person, showing interest in the other person, whatever they say, whether it's rubbish also. I mean, rubbish as in some inane stuff. You're not being criticized. That's also important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in families that can happen, right?
Yeah. And in that example, you've made me think. So I work with a couple of guys on a project at the moment, and quite recently we had a pretty robust, challenging conversation between the three of us. And it wasn't easy. But at the end, we all agreed that we felt so good about being able to be expressing our views very openly, very directly, the other people listening, and then making a decision at the end of it. Now, if somebody had witnessed that conversation, they might have said, oh my goodness, these guys don't get on. And so it's quite interesting how a behavior is always in context. So, the observer might say, oh, well, they were having an argument. And we at the end said, well, we had different points of view, but we just worked through it and we came to a conclusion. And we felt really good that nobody felt, I can't say how I feel. And that's a positive thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's quite interesting that being able to show um, being able to show difficult emotions or difficult emotions is perhaps a stronger sign of belonging than not showing those emotions. So
I agree.
when you were talking about the family, I was thinking, my kids, they just say what it is to each other, and that's wonderful. What about the sounds that you associate with belonging?
So I left out feelings. I still have to
Yeah.
answer that. So a feeling of warmth,
Okay.
feeling of openness and flexibility, and even curiosity to know what the other is trying to think or say or express. Yeah. So that is the feeling. And then sounds. Sounds, I feel in all of this also there should be boundaries. You want to be open, yes, but you have to have that basic respect,
Yeah.
basic drawing a line of even in uh, any interactive scenario, whether it's family or work. Can't be shouting, you can't be screaming, you can't be disrespectful, rude. So within that sounds like those really make me feel like, why is it that X or Y or me have to raise our voice? Is it that because people doesn't want to listen to my opinion, or I have to really work hard or raise my voice to be heard? So those are the kind of sounds that I am wary of.
Mm. And for me, so when I was thinking about the sounds, I just thought of the sound of a group with high fives everywhere. Sort of a team, maybe when they've won a match or something like that, and everybody feeling part of it. But what you've just said made me think about something quite different, which is how a sense of belonging is engendered by clarity around what is expected and what is not allowed. That's something to do with belonging as well, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
and everybody coming together to make sure that happens. So if somebody is out of line, then the rest bring them back in line. If it's a real sense of belonging in the group,
Mm.
and like you say, workplace or family or whatever community situation, it applies
Mhm.
to all of those. Mm. So let's get really practical then, and let's look to the other side of belonging. And I want to ask you, where have you noticed a lack of belonging?
Mm. So I don't know why, rewind to my school days. And I was just don't know why. I just thought of how in us, I was, just to give you an example, I was just like, I call them radial relationships, one on ones with different people in the class. So like, I'm X, there's Y, X and Y, X and Z, X and, X with Y, Z, and P and Q. So I felt like I didn't have, I was just with different people that catered to different sides to me.
Mhm.
So that was what, so your question was, um, I forget now.
It's okay. Where have you noticed a lack of
God.
belonging?
So lack of belonging was where that side of me didn't gel with someone else. So I would go or veer towards those who and I had a similarity in where I thought it was good fun because it was school. Then coming to college, it was it we had a group of people, but we still I felt a little less respected, but and even dominated. And then I think it all fell in place at work where, I stood my ground, and, people automatically welcome you when you're compassionate towards them. You give them a listening ear when you support them. So I think that is the main reason why people feel that you belong to them. I think it starts with a lot of care and kindness,
Mm.
because then they know they can depend on you. So I think you belong then, and they may not belong with you. You may just be at a little higher level of belonging when it comes to yourself. You don't feel the need to belong to them. You just feel your values get different, and you say, okay, so long as I was there to support that person, if I didn't get that support, it's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like that, right?
Yeah. And you mentioned what you said at the beginning of that was that you've been taken back to your school days and you didn't know why. So I can share with you that in Values Jam conversations, this happens a lot. People say, "Oh, this thing has just come into my head, and I haven't thought about this for maybe 10 years or more." And because this kept happening, I was curious. So I ended up speaking to a psychologist in New Zealand. And what he said was that perhaps because values based conversations go so deep, it might be that previously lapsed neural pathways are reconnected, and that causes a memory to come to the surface where previously it was hidden. So that's really fascinating. And now I'm starting to talk to people in the areas of dementia and Alzheimer's, because imagine in a senior living setting, people being able to have a conversation with dignity using Values Jam instead of, some of these infantile bingo games and stuff like that that sometimes happens. So yeah, just as an aside. And then I can share a similar memory from school as well, because I went to a school where I didn't come from a very privileged background at all. And I was lucky enough to pass the exams to go to a school where there were people that came from great privilege. And I remember hearing conversations in groups when they were talking about going on skiing holidays when I was about 17. And I just didn't understand the language. They were using technical words that I'd never heard, not familiar with at all. And I definitely felt like I was not belonging. But they weren't doing it on purpose. Earlier we were saying how groups sometimes push away people that were different. In that
Mm,
situation, they're normal. They didn't realize that it was not my normal. And so
mm,
by using vocabulary that I just had no understanding of, they were completely innocent to that.
mm,
It was just their world. So quite interesting there that sometimes this sense of belonging or not belonging is conscious, push away, and then other times it's just created because of the way that we behave. And just one final example of that, actually, I can't remember where
mm,
this was. Anyway, it was a lady who said that she worked in a group of ladies who all
mm,
had children and were always talking about their children. She didn't have a child. And as a result, she felt
mm,
really excluded from the group, but they weren't doing it on
mm,
purpose. They were just being a
mm,
bit absent-minded or careless, maybe. So quite interesting that level of either consciousness or subconsciousness to create either a strong sense of belonging, like you were saying about expressing kindness and care, or even when you don't mean it, you're actually pushing people away sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And, that's where a little bit of emotional intelligence also comes in. Sensitive to others, not
Mm.
just being, I, me, myself kind of thing, because you're all similar. It just requires a little bit of pause and thinking, stepping into another person's shoes and inviting them and say, what about you? And then when you learn that they don't have a child, you say, oh, that's amazing. Turn it around and say probably that, oh, wow, there's so many pros to not having, having to look after somebody, I mean, and we can live a free life. These things, it happens, right? I mean, it's good to flip it, right? And just help the person to look at the brighter side of it, I
Definitely,
mean.
Shailaja. And I thought the one that I would say was, "Oh, you're so lucky you can have a lie-in in the morning." You know, 'cause
Yeah.
do you have children?
I do, and I have sacrificed so much. Now they're millennials, Alan. They are probably similar in age to maybe your children. How my children are. My boy is 33 and my daughter is 31.
Yeah, so that is similar. So I have four, and they're
Okay.
between 27 and 35.
Wow. All adults now, not, and we still call them children, right? We say, my kids, my kids.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know whether this is absolutely true or not, but I
Mm.
feel like I enjoy them more now than I even did when they were, small children, because it's just I'm in wonder at how they are such beautiful people and they get on with each other. It's just a joy.
Yeah, I know. That is so nice also because even my son and daughter are in the business together and they work together. They
Okay.
can't, yeah, because they're like peers. They're just 1 year and 7 months apart.
Yeah.
So they are like friends. If they fight, they have their own secrets and they also have their moments of happiness and shared love and stuff like that, but they also fight. So but they're together in the business, both are supporting each other in a common goal, which is the business of ice cream. So they're making ice cream. My
Oh,
daughter's very creative, yeah, and my son is the finance, logistics and operations guy and distribution, and she's the creative branding person. He also supports her in that, so she creates the ice cream. They are all vegan and dairy free, like she makes them out of coconut milk.
what's the brand called?
Majama, Majama.
Okay, there's an advertisement for you there. Majama ice cream, vegan
Yeah.
coconut milk. Go buy some. And
Yeah. Oh, I shouldn't have said about this here, right? Or it's
yeah,
okay.
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
So, and
Okay.
I was just thinking about those two because, in the context of belonging, that's maybe one of the most extreme examples because not only do they belong to the family, they
Mhm.
belong to their business as well. So
Yeah.
that's, a lot of people are more distributed, if you, I can't think of a better word, that in that they belong to different setups, whereas those guys, they're really together, right?
Yeah, and there are two poles apart. I mean, they're like poles apart. They're two different peas of a pod. They look similar. They have certain values that are similar, but they're still different peas of a pod.
Yeah. Now, in Values Jam, there's also the opportunity for you to ask a question about belonging. So I'd like you to do that right now. And when you ask the question, if you've got the answer immediately, then please do share it. Or if you prefer, you can ask me the question and then respond to my answer. And your question begins with who, what, where, when, why, or how. So what are you curious about belonging?
So I'm going to ask you about family because that is the first thought that comes to your mind. And, so I want to ask you, so you say that you have four children and two adults in the house, right? So how did you start creating a sense of belonging when there were four different individuals in the house, and of course you and your partner and their mother, so six different individuals? How did you create or establish the foundation of belonging in the
I think
family?
on the hoof. So, nobody teaches us how to be parents, really, do they? And so it's a bit learning as you go. Um, I'm just trying to think about. So, what we did attempt to do was have some consistency with the way that we treated the four. But we were also very conscious that they were each individuals and that you could not be absolutely rigid about the consistency. So that sounds like
Yeah.
a contradiction, but it's kind of broadly consistent, but allowing some grace when it was felt needed. Um, and then, yeah, so an example of this would be recently my youngest daughter said to me, uh, Dad, we always used to have to work really hard to get whatever it was that we wanted, and you never gave us anything. And she said at the time, I felt that you were being a bit mean. Why couldn't we have this, that, or the other? And then she said, but now I think it's one of the best lessons ever. Um, so there, and we were very consistent with that to have anything worth having, you need to work hard. That was a core principle. Um, but equally, if one of them needed something, we wouldn't say, oh, well, the other person hasn't had that, so you're not allowed to have it. There was the individuality, there was, okay, so if that's what you need, then we're going to help you get towards it. Um, yeah, I feel I've not given you a very good answer because as I've been saying it's felt a bit kind of jumbled and confused because it's this blend of consistency and individuality. What about you?
Yeah.
How did you create a sense of belonging in your family?
So it started very early, and they were like so close in age, right? So if I did hug one, the other one would just look at my face and feel left out. So I said, now this has to be done together each time. I have to take both of them in my arms like together. And it was like a repetitive thing, even in words. Like I would say, you're my left eye, you're my right eye. Like you are both the same for me. And then they were quite clever. They said, no, I want to be the right. And the other one would say, no, I want to be the right. I said, I would say both the eyes are the same. So it doesn't matter. I just said that. And then it kind of sunk in. And I grew them up together so that belonging was there, though they were very different, very different. Each they tried to understand the differences, also very young in age, like since their childhood. So they know that this person is very different from me, but they grew up together. I brought them up together. That's how I brought the sense of belonging. But I liked your thing about the consistency and the flexibility part. I think you gave it a balance. I would just say that since I know this is going to be out in the open, but I can be vulnerable. I feel in my family, my husband is very different from me. I come from a very strict background, and he comes from a very lenient background. So I have tried to learn and get a little bit of his leniency rub off on me. And I gave into my children a lot, but I was also strict. But I think somewhere there, the consistency was not there in certain matters, and I felt like I that that we had differing opinions, and then the consistency was not there, you know, and that was played out and in a situation, and I felt like it can be taken advantage of. And like, oh, I have a father who is really very taking my side kind of thing, and I have a mother who is not, and who's so I can just I can just do, I can take advantage of it. But I think it happened in childhood, but I think as they grew, they understood that, there is sense in what my mom is saying, there's sense in what my father is saying. So I think it grew out because children are quite smart, right? They pick up things.
Yeah. And I think what you've just touched on there about people having a greater understanding later in life, maybe many years later, is so true. Um, and yet, it feels to me that some parents feel the need to justify their existence rather than just do what's right. And then maybe in a few years, the child realizes what was done. Here's another example. Sam, my youngest son, we were out with some of his friends, and he had never told me this story until like a year ago, maybe. And he said we were on a train together. He was about 8 years old, and it was either a lady or two ladies. Anyway, I asked him to give up his seat, or I didn't ask him. I told him to give up his seat. And he said he remembers feeling so embarrassed that everybody was looking at him because he stood up and this lady had, been able to sit down as a result. But then he said to me, at the time I was so angry with you because I felt that everybody was looking at me. I felt really bad. But then he said it's one of the best lessons in life. And his girlfriend said to me, and then he went to buy some drinks, and his girlfriend said, he tells everybody that story.
That
So,
is so lovely.
yeah, but and the other thing I wanted to say about belonging was that I also, in the family context, I also attach a lot of importance to them not feeling too much of a sense of belonging. I always wanted to give them the freedom to create their own life. Um, there's I don't know if I've, yeah, here we are. Funny how I can lay my hands on this. Are you familiar with Kabil Gibran?
Yeah, I know of this.
So there's a poem called Children, and my favorite line is this: You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. And I just love how, they're not yours, they're not your arrows. You send them forth and they will become what they become, right? So that's probably going off topic a little bit, but something about how belonging, if you're not careful, can actually become restricting.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering how it can be restricting. Uh, yeah, yes. Now the thought comes to me that then you want that all the time for yourself to belong, and not be your own individual self. Like you want to be part of something and fit in, as we started the conversation with that, fitting in, and now we're in. I mean, I'm how strange it's all come a full circle that we want to fit in. Yeah, so that freedom has to be there. We have to be who we are, but also find a place where we can belong if there is a need to belong.
Yeah. And actually, another practical example, this was a workplace. So it was working in a hotel. I was the assistant event manager in a big hotel. And we had a brilliant team. We always smashed our targets. Everybody thought we were the best department. We got
Mm,
fantastic feedback from our guests. It was just everything just went well all of the time. It was wonderful. But I was young and I was ambitious, and it was a really difficult decision to make to leave because I knew that for my long-term career, I needed to do something else. But it would have been so easy to just stay because everything was comfortable, right? Um,
mm,
so yeah, maybe there is this stepping outside of your comfort zone rather than taking belonging for granted and just accepting it without knowing what else there might be.
mm, mm. Yeah, wonderful. And to that, I would say that if we are in a work situation and we feel comfortable with certain people, but also don't feel comfortable with certain other people, then there is the necessity to be cohesive. Then that's where we need to respect, uh, come out of a comfort zone and respect what other person's needs are, understand where you need to meet, meet middle to get that middle ground,
Yeah,
and then so that you can achieve the common goal.
yes, definitely. Now I'm conscious of time. Time has flown by, and
Yeah.
there's always one final question for this values jam, and that is, what are you encouraged to do differently about belonging as a result of this conversation?
So I loved your thing about the when your idea about that consistency and also not being so consistent
Hmm.
and finding that balance so that they can, your children or whoever it may be in the family scenario, they are free to become or who they are, and you know express themselves with all the freedom that is required. So I think now I've changed my mind a little bit about the consistency between two parents.
So what
A little.
could I just I'm gonna role reverse you now because I'm gonna ask you the question that you probably ask your coachees. So I'm gonna ask you, what does that look like in practice for you? What are the first baby steps you're gonna make towards that direction?
So from my side, I can say that I would, even more than what I do now, understand my husband's point of view and see what is he trying to say.
Okay.
And, you know, and, just not feel like that there are sides being taken or anything. Even if sometimes as adults, children don't play that out, take advantage, but of that, that there are sides being taken. But I think it's at a higher level. You you need to know what they are saying, what he's saying, and what you're trying to say. So if you feel that there is no middle ground, I think sometimes it's okay to let go. And you know, when you let go, I think that the other person understands what you're doing and probably says that, oh, this is a surprise. This is not, this has gone on so smooth. And there's no conflict or argument here. So let me see what I can do do the same thing. So I think sometimes being the change that you want to see rather than saying, thinking just what comes to your mind, which is again, this situation is repeating. I am different, he's different. What are we doing here for the betterment of the child or whatever, whatever. And then you just say, stop here.
Now, you mentioned be the change that you want to be, right? It's Gandhi Day.
To see in others. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Gandhi Day
Gandhi.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
is it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Okay.
So I just want to keep it at be the change you want to see in
Okay.
others or wherever, you know.
And mate, so what am I encouraged to do differently? I think our conversation has reinforced to me that whilst belonging is really important and valuable, not to the nth degree. So to be confident in yourself so that if you don't fit in, it's
Mm.
not a big deal, right? It's
Yeah,
just what it is. So go
yeah,
find some other people that you do feel belonging,
ex-
but don't give up.
exactly.
Don't give up yourself just to have a sense of belonging, because whilst that might work in the short term, it won't be fruitful in the longer term.
Yeah. So I would like to end it with by saying, be who you are rather than be who others think you should be.
That's a fantastic end to this values jam about belonging. So, Shailaja, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alan. It was a lovely, lovely talking to you. It was so enriching. And I really explored the different places of my mind to have a very open and comfortable conversation with you. And I'd
Great.
like to say that I've been comfortable with you from day one,
Thank
from
you.
the time we met.
Okay, you take care.
Thank you.
Bye.